From Anderson Hall and the Roy Lenwell Studios in downtown Lincoln, this is the Halftime Scoreboard Show on 90.3 KRNU.
At halftime with the score, Nebraska Cornhuskers 31, Idaho Vandals 3. Let's review some of the other games going on across the country. Current top 25 games going on right now. South Florida and number 9 Florida, 7-7 at the half. South Florida keeping that game close thanks to a 2-yard touchdown pass from B.J. Daniels. John Brantley threw an 11-yard touchdown pass late in the second quarter to tie that game up for Florida. San Jose State headed into Wisconsin to take on number 11, the Wisconsin Badgers. They're currently down 20-0 in the third quarter. Wisconsin running back John Clay has 8 carries for 30 yards and 1 touchdown on the day. Number 13, Virginia Tech 7, James Madison 0, Tyrod Taylor 5 for 6 in that game with 1 touchdown pass, 51 yards passing. Number 16, Georgia Tech 17 versus Big 12, Kansas. They have 14 points in that game, 17-14 Georgia Tech on top in the third quarter. KU quarterback Jordan Webb 12 for 19, 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. Number 22, Georgia, and number 24, South Carolina doing battle. South Carolina up 14-3 in the third quarter. South Carolina running back has 21 carries for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. Some other teams in the top 25 have yet to start action yet. A big game tonight. Number 18, Penn State, number 1, Alabama. Action will begin at 6 p.m. in Tuscaloosa, Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Reigning Heisman champ Mark Ingram is not expected to play in this top 25 matchup. Another key matchup, number 12, Miami takes on number 2, Ohio State at 2:30. Number 4, TCU plays host to Tennessee Tech at 6. Number 5, Texas takes on Wyoming, and that game's also at 6. Number 7, Oregon heads to Knoxville to take on the Volunteers of Tennessee. That game is set to start at 6 p.m. Other games starting later today in the top 25 include Iowa State, number 9, Iowa, number 17, Florida State, and number 10, Oklahoma. That game will start at 2:30 in Norman, Oklahoma. Number 14, Arkansas will take on Louisiana Monroe at 6 p.m. later today. Virginia takes on number 16, USC. That game's at 9 p.m. Number 19, LSU to take on Vanderbilt. Number 20, Utah to take on UNLV. UCLA plays host to number 25, Stanford. 2 top 25 games played earlier this week had number 23, West Virginia, sneaking out a victory over Marshall 24-21 yesterday. On Thursday, number 21, Auburn barely gets by Mississippi State 17-14 in that SEC battle. Now to some Big 12 action. Colorado takes on California later today. That game's at 2:30. McNeese State heads into Tiger Country to take on Missouri. Troy and Oklahoma State will face off at 6 p.m. Turner Gill's former team, the Buffalo Bulls, will take on Robert Griffin and the Baylor Bears later today. Louisiana Tech heads into College Station to take on Texas A&M, led by standout quarterback Gerard Johnson. Missouri State heads into Manhattan to take on the Bill Snyder-led Kansas State Wildcats. And Texas Tech will face off against New Mexico. Some other games that went final earlier this week from across the country include Temple with a victory over Central Michigan 13-10 in overtime on Thursday, and Houston was all over UTEP 54-24. That victory comes with a toll for Houston, though. Heisman hopeful Case Keenum left the game with an injury to his head. Now look at other games going on across the country right now. Michigan State 20, Florida Atlantic 7. That's in the third quarter. Memphis 10, East Carolina 35. That game's at half. Gardner-Webb is down to Akron 21-17. Hawaii beating Army 21-7. That game's at the half. Connecticut all over Texas Southern 45-0. Cincinnati on top of Indiana State 12-7. Wake Forest and Duke are tied 35-35 at the half. Purdue beating Western Illinois 17-7. Minnesota is being upset right now by South Dakota 28-10. That game is at a half. Pittsburgh on top of New Hampshire 10-0. And a game just getting started a little bit ago, Eastern Michigan and Miami of Ohio. That game is 0-0 in the first quarter. Some notable games going on later today have yet to start. Clemson and Presbyterian will take on at 2:30. Notre Dame and Michigan, a huge game there at 2:30. That game going on later today. North Dakota and Northern Illinois will go at 6 p.m. later today. Austin Peay and Middle Tennessee State will go at 6. Montana State and Washington State also expected to start that game at 6 o'clock. Western Kentucky, who lost last week to the Huskers, will take on Kentucky later tonight. That game's expected to start at 6:30. One other game starting later tonight, Colorado State and Nevada. That game will start at 9:30. That's it for the Halftime Scoreboard Show. Join me again after the game for a complete rundown of final scores and game summaries. I'm Ryan Penny. We'll join Andrew Lacey and Mike Maynard in Memorial Stadium for the second half of today's game right after this.